See my screen?
Recording is in progress.
Okay. I didn't see a little announcement. Usually it does say something when that happens, but
Trust
I
me, it's
trust
recording.
that
Yes.
is working. All right. So thank you, everybody. Good morning. So today is Monday, April 8th, 2024. It is solar eclipse day here in North America, Turtle Island. So today's Zoom call is intended to mark a relaunch of our UnityNet campaigns of continuous engagement following the previous IGU Summit series that took place starting with the Sunlight Spectacle 2021 event that took place on Thursday, June 10th, 2020, which was week one. So that event launched a series of weekly IGU Summit events that took place every Thursday until December 28th, 2023, which was week 134. So it is one day after World Health Day, which is celebrated annually and each year draws attention to a specific health topic of concern to people all over the world, where the date of April 7th marks the anniversary of the founding of the WHO in 1948, where this year's World Health Day 2024 theme was My Health, My Right. So the WHO Council on the Economics of Health for All had found that at least 140 countries recognized health as a human right in their constitution. Yet countries are not passing and putting into practice laws to ensure their populations are entitled to access health services. So this underpins the fact that at least 4.5 billion people, more than half of the world's population, were not fully covered by essential health services. And that number comes from 2021 data. So along the way, what I'm going to be doing as well is putting information into the chat about some of the things that I've been talking about during these events or during this presentation, just so that people do have a reference to some of the things that I'm talking about as well. So today I'll be making some announcements about the formal establishment of the UnityNet Global Partnership for Regenerative Development Learning Partnership for Global Unity and the Global Sister Schools Program Learning Exchange Programs with the Unity Learning Network at the core of the programs. And I'll also be making announcements about the Three Continent Project and fundraising and promotional campaign intended to showcase global cooperation called Pedal for Peace, through which we create some youth peace routes starting on 3 continents: Africa, sub-Saharan, Asia, South Central, and here in North America, Turtle Island, likely here in Canada, possibly in the US. All in support of the Rotary Dare to Be Great International Year of Literacy 2025 as is being proposed, and the UnityNet Net Zero Tourism Initiative, and for the eventual establishment of the UnityNet Unity Eco Village Network for the purpose of supporting the UnityNet Unity Biodiversity Network and their work in restoring nature at the bioregional and watershed level in all local communities of UnityNet, as we seek to help humanity accelerate the transition from Homo configliere to Homo amore universalis, because the philosophy of the schoolroom in one generation will be the philosophy of government in the next, as the quote from Abraham Lincoln. I would like to refer in particular to the Regenerative Living, Learning, and Lifestyle Network, which again, I am putting in the chat for those who wish to find out a bit more. And so this event, managed by Andrew Networks, RxDC, we are delivering these ongoing events as we move forward together. So again, you'll find a number of additional information linked in the chat. I will also be publishing this entire presentation with all of these links for everybody on online, so that it can be accessed again in the future. So before I do anything else, I do want to start with a land acknowledgement. So I acknowledge those who came before us on this land and say this land acknowledgement. So we begin today by acknowledging that we walk upon the traditional territories of Indigenous peoples. We recognize their history, spirituality, culture, and stewardship of the land. We're grateful to all Indigenous groups for their commitment to protect the land and its resources, and we're committed to reconciliation, partnership, and enhanced understanding. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on here in the Greater Toronto Area is the traditional territory of many nations on the land known as Tkaronto, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Wendat, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples, as well as the Métis peoples, and is now home to many diverse peoples. We'd also like to acknowledge the land we are on here is at the meeting place of two treaties, the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit and those of the First Nations, the Williams Treaty. We also acknowledge the Two-Row Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Six Nations of the Tkaronto watershed and the settlers, an agreement that bound them to work together, but to develop their societies in parallel on these shared lands. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 and is subject to the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. In our role as settlers and displaced people on this land, we share the responsibility of challenging, disrupting colonial systems that enact violence upon the land and stand in solidarity with Indigenous peoples. We'd like to thank the Indigenous peoples of these lands, including First Nations, Inuit, and Métis, for sharing this land with us. We also acknowledge and recognize all of the world's Indigenous peoples as stewards of Mother Earth. Again, there is a short land acknowledgement in the chat. So my name is Lloyd Helferty, the co-founder of UnityNet International, a hybrid holistic practicum learning system management company based in Canada that also assists with community partnership building locally and globally, or as we like to say, globally, by leveraging a unique set of community engagement activities developed in partnership with the members of the AHIABGA International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors. I'm coming at you from the Leechcroft area of Thornhill on the Markham side of Yonge Street, north of Highway 407, where the original greenbelt around Toronto used to be, and which used to separate Toronto from Richmond Hill. I'm in the German Mills Creek sub-watershed of the East Don River, which is the watershed that dominates the east side of Toronto. But I'm about 1/3 of the way from the headwaters of the Don River, which empties into Lake Ontario, which is the lowest and last of the 5 Great Lakes of North America, which dominates the entire cluster of bioregions in this part of the world. The Don River is also the namesake of the Don Valley Parkway and other local features and communities here in the Greater Toronto bioregion on the east central side of Turtle Island. I am also the Chief Ecosystem Director, Program Development Director, and a Sustainable Society Consultant for Energyme Institute, which is headquartered in Manhattan. It is a private 501(c) nonprofit company and a member of the UN Global Compact and UN Academic Impact member and partner. We started out as a virtual university that was created to help empower global populations to reestablish a sustainable balance with their local environments by designing and implementing projects that supports a strong and diversified local economy while integrating core sustainable technologies and infrastructure into these communities in the areas of renewable energy, high-density food growth solutions, and systems for sustainably managing local waste streams and protecting local water resources. As well, I am a Goodwill Ambassador for the AHIABGA International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors and Activists. We call it AHIABGA, with a portfolio that covers Canada, La Francophonie, the Commonwealth of Nations, and Turtle Island communities. We are seeking to empower our communities to engage with royal, Indigenous, and tribal leadership, as well as interfaith, non-governmental, academic, business, and banking collaborators, so that we can collectively engage humanity, and leave no one behind as we achieve the global goals. So again, you'll find my contact information in the chat for those who'd like to get in contact with me afterwards if we are not connected. So as was noted during the promotions for this event, at UnityNet, we are creating the spaces, both physical and virtual, for collaborations to happen along and among all relevant stakeholders, including those at the grassroots, who also need to learn the concepts and vocabulary of sustainable and regenerative development and find their own place at the table. At UnityNet, we're also reimagining for biodiversity and Earth systems health beyond climate by providing the tools and the spaces for breaking the silos through multi-sectoral collaboration at both the local and the global levels that goes beyond the simplistic to mainstream solutions for achieving what we call an abundance economy that seeks to bring everyone forward. Our key values include humility, responsibility, and innovation in service to life and all our relations. Our hashtags include life value, peace education for an abundance economy, through cosmic laughter in life learning gardens, through story pod sharing of our origin stories, through open source, regenerative, climate smart infrastructure, with open knowledge, open learning, and humanitarian entrepreneurship as the keys. So again, you'll find some information about the Global Unity Network in the chat. There is some information as well about some of the things that we have been talking about recently within our network. So it is at this point where I would like to pause for introductions. This opening presentation was made so that people who are on the call today can be given an opportunity to introduce themselves now. For this, I will stop my screen sharing. We'll start it up later so we can complete the whole opening presentation. We have about 20 to 30 minutes for introductions. To try to be brief, tell us your name, your location, maybe the organization that you're with, briefly, your interest in the work we're doing in UnityNet, perhaps how you may be able to contribute to a successful outcome for all of humanity and for Mother Earth. Please also remember to enter your name and contact information again in the chat, your email, your telephone, your WhatsApp, your website, your Facebook, your Twitter, your LinkedIn, or any other social media. So we can follow up with you, especially if you are not already connected to us through UnityNet. So leaving your contact info in the chat also serves as a record of your participation in this event. So note that at the end of the call, before you leave, you can also save the chat by pressing the three little dots at the bottom of the screen by clicking Save Chat.
So Lloyd, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can. I see a big Andrew Networks.
Well, thank you. Let me invite welcome everyone here. My name is Andrew Williams Jr. And as Lloyd indicated before, this is being hosted by AHIABGA, the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors. You can reach me at AHIABGA-TV at gmail.com. But we're also doing this as a very special treat and opportunity for anyone that has a nonprofit organization whose goals and objectives align with one or more of the Sustainable Development Goals to take advantage of this very same opportunity to share your activity around the world. This actually, Lloyd, I have to give thanks to Lloyd Helferty and Lisa Nees, Stephanie. We've pioneered this for over 2 years and providing this opportunity for organizations, primarily through Lloyd. But we've gotten our chops now. We're able to expand and scale this up. So we host, manage, or stream Zoom events for your activity. In the retail space, we do this for a minimum of $250 for 2 hours maximum or less, which does not include any promotions. It does include hosting, recording, and streaming with a media release, and transcripts are available for events that do not require pre-registration. like today. We will be able to get an AI summary of the participants and also a transcript. So that's why it's important that your name reflects the true identity that we can track. But for your purposes, I did put this into the chat. This is an overview of the program, basically. What we'll do is, for your duly registered organization, we will provide a voucher, if you would, for our donation of services to you. In cases like Lloyd, if you don't have a registered organization, then we'll do this for whatever name that you provide us, assuming that you align with our goals and objectives. We will include immediate release so that it will be possible for us to share this information for informational purposes. We don't intend to do it for commercial purposes. If that becomes an option, you will have an option if you so choose to participate in any revenue sharing that's generated. So Lloyd, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
So I'm going to be opening up the floor to everybody to introduce themselves as well. And so we can have a little bit of time to get to know each other before I finish up the rest of the presentation, as I noted. So we may want to start. I'm seeing in the top left corner, Stephanie Schuler. And I think she's with a gentleman in Manhattan by the name of Mr. Sosinski.
Hello, everybody. I'm Stephanie Schuler, and I'm with Bill Sosinski. We're in Central Park, New York, USA. I'm usually based in Toronto, Canada, and often in New York and in Maui, Hawaii. I'm also a co-founder and co-director of UnityNet International. Also a co-founder and director of the Maui Aloha Project, Global Eco Village Initiative. And I'm also in my final year of my doctoral studies at OISE, the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education at the University of Toronto, Canada, focusing on the experience of having learning disabilities in the school years. And this time of the solar eclipse and the darkness that will ensue in a few hours, it gives us a time for introspection and renewal. And as the light starts to emit after the solar eclipse, we hope that it will offer us a time of conscious ecology and a time for transition where we can address the challenges of climate change. And Bill and I today are in Central Park because these parks and these green spaces in all of the places around the world are crucial places that can offer us learning, hybrid learning in person and online, where there's all kinds of food and medicine in the trees, in the flowers, in the bushes, and schools and children and communities that live around all these parks that are planned around the world in all the cities, big and small. And we need to, UnityNet International and our affiliation with UnityNet International is about a grassroots learning en masse so that we can take in food security into our own hands, and so that children can begin learning the processes from seed to table, and they will grow up and say, of course we know how to grow our own food. Of course we know how to prepare our own food. And we don't have to rely on the growing costs and the growing food insecurities around the world, both in the Western world and all over. We can see that this is an ongoing issue: food security, housing security, and also social well-being. Social and emotional well-being. We see that there is, unfortunately, a youth mental health crisis around the world, and also a mental health crisis period for all communities around the world. And this has got to be paramount in our school systems when we're raising the children to become responsible adults. They need to have the tools to be able to take in their own sustainability into their own hands. And that's what UnityNet International is about, addressing these climate challenges and addressing to have circular economies and regenerative processes that are attainable for us all to be equipped with and to be second nature in all of our communities around the world, and to share all those processes so that we can replicate these kind of this kind of security and sustainability, both in our micro communities and on a macro level for the planet, for Mother Earth.
Thank you,
And here's Bill.
Stephanie.
You're welcome.
Gonna hand it off to Bill
Good
for
morning.
a minute.
Hello, Lloyd. Hey, first of all, thank you very much for putting this together. It's nice being here with Stephanie in Central Park. Absolutely fabulously gorgeous day today, and we're happy to be on the call. Just a little bit about Energime Institute, really what we're trying to do, and what's really become clear to me after doing this nonstop, like a lot of you folks, for 17 years without a paycheck, just because we're committed to doing it. And I have to say how much I admire the people on this call, because I know almost all of us have been doing this on a volunteer basis, trying to get projects going, trying to get ideas across that are going to help humanity in a broader sense. You know, the world, you solve the problems of the world through sustainable and resilient economic development that empowers people to be part of the process. That's a process of education and training. Food is going to be essential because we're about to head into a period where food insecurity globally is going to reach pandemic proportions in almost every population on the planet. But I would tell you, from what I've been observing, particularly over the last few years, our real issue is teaching our young people and basically reteaching our older people what it means to be a human being and humanity. Teaching people to be compassionate, respectful. These are the things that seem to be falling apart in the age of digital education and social networking. And, you know, until we start getting forgiveness and compassion and respect into every aspect of our life, everything that we're working for is not going to work. We've got to really try to improve human beings. And that starts by empowering them, by caring about them, and doing the kind of work that I know everybody on this call is attempting to do as part of their life plan. Anyway, Energime Institute is doing everything we can to educate, train, and create projects that support that ultimate goal of creating better human beings, more compassionate and respectful human beings. And we're doing that through projects that are directly focused on education and directly focused on food security. All the other issues of renewable energy, recycling and repurposing of waste products, water management, all of that stuff is important. But unless you can do it through the lens of empowering people to have a higher standard of living and through a lens of compassion and working together, it's not going to work. And it's an uphill fight right now, particularly with what's going on politically in many parts of the world, particularly in the United States, which is terrifying right now. Anyway, that's my Sermon on the Mount for the day. Lloyd, thank you so much for setting this up. Really appreciate it. And really, everybody continue doing the wonderful work that you're doing.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Bill. Before we step off, Bill, this is Andrew Williams, Jr. I want to thank you so much for being one of the first companies that followed our lead with Adam Greenwell to join the United Nations Global Compact. It was founded, as you may know, back in 2000, alongside the Millennium Development Goals. So as we shift now to the Sustainable Development Goals, Bill, I think it's even more important now that we get the civic community, civil society, engaged with businesses so that we can have a positive impact on governments and businesses that make the decisions that affect our lives. That begins at the grassroots level. So I'm very happy to share Lloyd with you so we can help to champion this change. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew. Lisa Anise, did you want to say a few words?
Oh, yes. Well, introducing myself. My name is Lisa Anise. I work with a United Nations division called UNESCO. That's the Education, Science, and Cultural Organization. I am a teacher. I've got numerous degrees in music education, as well as general education and a master's in special education. I've been a facilitator on a number of programs where the end goal was to change social landscapes and perceptions regarding persons at risk. But most importantly, what I'm known for lately, I decided that I wanted to see about getting cultural education back into the schools, particularly dance, which is what I've done all my life. And after just mentioning the word dance along with other words to a number of people working at the YMCA next door to the studio where I taught and trained, finally they asked me to put myself forward and design a program for middle school, which led to a Chinese immersion school, ages 4 through 6, which later led to the San Francisco Unified School District and an after-school program that they wanted to test, which literally took off when I told them what the process was. Before I knew it, I was getting pestered by a fellow who I'd never heard of before, Professor Alkas Raftis, now Dr. Alkas Raftis, president of the International Dance Council. And after a lot of conversations back and forth, we finally met in person at an event in Hallandale, Florida, where after several arguments, I finally got my lapel pin and was told I was a knight for the CID. After a number of years inside of a federal facility designing programs upon request, I finally designed 2 that made my government a lot of money. And I'm here in San Francisco, United States. So in 2018, the National Board of Education and the largest nonprofit service organization in the nation started to escort dance programs onto after school across the nation. That same year, the state of California started to offer advanced teaching degrees to practitioners of cultural education of all types. And well, a couple years ago, they voted a minimum of $1 billion be spent bringing cultural education back into the schools in this state. Of course, that got me to the second job that got layered on top. In 2017, as a registered international dance board judge, I was pulled into a foreign nation for a world qualifying event where I met with a member of the International Olympic Committee who told me of the Russian Federation plan to make breakdancing an Olympic sport. I told that man that I didn't think that that was a very good idea for the Russians to do, because breaking is one of the pillars of hip hop culture, and that taking dance away from a culture that feeds it is a form of genocide. And of course, I'd seen the Federation do this with 3 other dance cultures before, the end result being destruction. Well, Russians didn't listen to me. I didn't think they would. So I started to talk with different hip hop groups that I knew around me. And before I knew it, I was gathering them from all around the world using the internet and social media. And then just under 2 years ago, I was approached by Lloyd Helferty here, as well as Andrew and several other people from UnityNet Africa and Diaspora. They asked me to share the connections that I'd made with them. And when they told me of their program, I realized that our paths ran parallel. So I agreed to become the Global Outreach Director for UnityNet International. And it seems to have fared well. What I was told a couple of weeks ago by Lloyd was they anticipated getting into 3 nations on the pilot project. We are now at 19, which means that this is a good program. A lot of people are recognizing it, even though we're really barely getting boots on the ground at this point. The biggest thing that I've noticed is most of what is asked for in terms of activities are things that are already being done by those on the ground in conflict regions. All of these things that we're looking for. Permaculture, agroforestry, most certainly cultural education, an essential, because it plays with a portion of our brain that stimulates an awful lot of growth and learning. That's the center of personality. It's a little piece called the amygdala. And somewhere at the age of 2 and 3, we recognize all these people around us as being members of a group that we actually belong to. All these big creatures that have been taking care of us all this time. So what we do is we try to copy what they're doing, emulate them, because we're a member, right? Well, the body hasn't caught up with the brain yet. So what happens? All these large creatures around us try to keep us from being like them. And how do we respond? The only way we've learned how: screaming, yelling, and throwing fits. Congratulations, parents out there. Your child throwing tantrums at the age of 2 and 3 means that it's got a healthy mind. And then it comes down to, how are you going to teach them to explore? So moving forward on all of this, there are a lot of pieces and parts that are working in all together. And we're now looking at starting to make agreements between certain universities, certain activities in sport and culture, to start seeing what we can do to counter the effects of end-stage capitalist destruction, which is where everything has a price. Even what you see in the mirror every single morning. And a very predictable part of what mankind has gone through. I think this is our 5th age where we're looking at our own destruction from such a thing occurring. But with us all over, we stand to lose a great deal more. So all of those of you who are here, I think I'm a founding member of UnityNet International. I'm so busy, I can't keep up with all the names and all the titles. And of course, all of us have been working out of pocket to a point, but it's because of the changes that we've seen occurring just from talking about what we're doing. And each group we present to, we find something new that comes in as a benefit of all of these different parts that are ultimately going in the same direction. The entire internal structure is based on normal human perception and behavior. It's based on a business model that nonprofit collaboratives have used since 1863. So it's had a lot of experiments in the time being. So trying to remake this mousetrap probably isn't going to work. We found the model over years and years and generations of getting this done. And I'm looking very forward to increasing the connections with groups that are certainly doing the same as we are, but also with those groups who they've got that one special group, special need that they've been addressing for a good long time. Yes, absolutely. There is a space in this for absolutely everyone. And like I said, it's based on an old model that's been getting used to address everybody's needs. Now, in terms of culture, it is our identity. As human beings, we all have the same needs, the same desires, the same rights and recognitions that we give each other. How they get delivered depends on the tools we have at hand. And that is the identity of man. How did we answer those questions that we all have? That burning yearning for a ceremony, or for something to wear upon our head, or some sort of shelter to be put together. This is what culture is. And without recognizing that same story in other peoples from other areas that we haven't known or touched before, well, where does the understanding begin? With these cultural education. Even if it's just a show that you watch, that part of your brain, if it's healthy, is going to find that commonality and go, yeah, I know that story. It's mine. So moving forward, thank you very much for having me here. There's a lot more to talk about. in terms of myself, but I think you're going to find out given time. I am definitely different, as is most everybody here, and I'm very thankful to have met them all. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa Nice. I'd like to go quickly with others that are on the call. I'm going to call Dr. Thakor as well to introduce herself as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lloyd. And thank you everyone for giving their introductions, very interesting introductions. And especially I'm very grateful to Lloyd to bring me here to this event and the group and UnityNet and all. So I am founder of Global Sustainable Futures Network, and we are present in around the world, like worldwide. We are more than 7,000 coordinators in 165 countries. But these are not only coordinators, they represent universities, organizations, and network of networks. So in one email, I can reach out to 2 million people. So having that said, we initiated this group as a part of early career researchers international collaboration. We wanted to give space to researchers from the global south to communicate with global north, and also to provide them this mobility without restrictions of resources or any type of limitations that do you have an experience, do you have any international publication, and so on. So that was holding early careers researchers by having their career progression. And we have plenty of different innovative governance structures in place, which allows interdependent collaborative structure within the group to facilitate independent expertise, but also to collectively contribute to climate change and sustainable development goals. So after 3 years of these, small events, like 1 or 2 hour events, and we have also presented at high level committees like COP and Stockholm Plus and many other. Last year, I was invited by the UN Global Innovation Hub to present the idea of this GSFN, which was highly received by many as a systems thinking in real world problems, real world initiative. However, from 2024, we have started Global South Summits, and we host Global South Summit in every nation, like per nation. I mean, we select one host nation to deliver this summit. So they don't only deliver, the whole group delivers, but we just make them as a context. We identify the local issues, and then we debate, bring the whole consortium together and debate and deliver this dialogue towards that issues. So in January, we hosted in Pakistan, and they had soil as their issue. And so we had plenty of other streams coming out of soil. But again, what these summits do, they do not stop at just discussion level. We bring program leaders on board, and we develop 1 or 2 year programs so that everyone can, increase their capacity within that theme and also get collaboration and international exposure about it. In February, we did it in Egypt. In March, we did it in Kenya. And this month, we are doing in Nigeria. And we are very grateful for Lloyd to come on board as our contributor. So this is what I do. And I welcome everyone to join GSFN. And equally, I would like to contribute to UnityNet. Thank you.
Thank you, Renuka. We will, of course, be continuing the conversations about your upcoming event in Nigeria. I did send an email out recently, I think it was a week or two ago, to that effect, and I will make some follow-up on that. I'd like to, I don't know if other people would like to make any comments. If you would like to say a few words, please raise your hand so that you can have a little bit of time. I'm seeing the clock now as almost 12 noon my time, so we've been on for roughly 45 to 50 minutes, I believe. Our conversations are ongoing. But I would like to continue to present and finish up my formal presentation as well. So I am going to once again share my screen. But if anybody else wants to say a few words, again, we should have time at the end. So the work that we do within UnityNet is being done in support of what we call the big transition, as one might call it. We say globalization toward the creation of a collaborative abundance economy that helps to bring everyone forward. So this is opposed to our current competitive scarcity economy, where the United Nations members like to say that they want to leave no one behind. So we are positioning our network of networks in preparation for the post-2030 goals, the beyond the SDGs, also known as the global goals. We want to showcase the systems that will need or be needed for the world to achieve an abundance economy that brings everyone forward after the year 2030, i.e. from 2030 to 2045, the next 15-year period of development. So the work that we do is about transitioning the world to a better place in all realms by incorporating many innovations and by assisting the brilliant minds out there that are not being listened to, like the so many indigenous peoples and marginalized groups, the underserved communities of the world, and on all of the continents, Africa and Asia included, and not just here on Turtle Island. So here in Canada, North America, which we also know as Turtle Island, we are very much focused on engaging and working with the various underserved communities and indigenous peoples as we seek to roll out these innovations. So again, I just need to open up my chat. I will share what you see on the screen there, a link to the Energy Global Corporation, Turtle Island International Civil Society Organization, which is really what started a lot of this off in these discussions. So this is why I spent more than 2 years establishing the Unity, or the Indigenous Global Unity Network, the IGU network, where our mandate at UnityNet International is to demonstrate REFI and to funnel the investments we get into productive, regenerative, climate-smart infrastructure, the cooperative, community-based humanitarian enterprises, the social enterprises, and community-based investments that invest into the health of people, communities, and all our relations. So this will be done through the facilitated delivery of hybrid education and training in open source, regenerative, climate-smart infrastructure established as learning spaces that help to connect people to nature and to each other in ways that celebrate our diversity in all realms and that can help local communities become independent, self-sufficient, and decolonize, and ultimately adapt to climate change or global warming and achieve drawdown beyond net zero over both the short, by 2030, the next 5 to 6 years, and the longer term, out to 2050 and beyond. So again, you'll find the networks in the chat for the Indigenous Global Unity Network, as well as our UnityNet REFI network, which is for regenerative finance. So this is our big vision at UnityNet, and we are providing the tools that will allow any local community to use them and create localized partnerships for success. We're also helping the world to build an abundance economy that brings everyone forward, one local community at a time, by celebrating our diversity and understanding that partnerships or collaboration is strength, that diversity is strength, and that diversity is resilience. We seek to help create lifelong learners in everyone and to recognize and learn from nature, because we know that biodiversity in nature results in something amazing, greater resilience, and the biodiversity of mankind will be the same. So our hashtags, you could say, are diversity, partnerships, and humanitarian entrepreneurship. We're having our goals to make life better for everyone and all relations, and focusing on life value instead of only money value, plus ethics and technology can lead to a better world, a future that is better for all. Now we just need to execute upon it. So again, you'll find these hashtags in the chat, those who wish to use them for any future campaigns. They are, of course, something that we will be using as well for all our future promotions. But before we get too far in the presentation, I do want to go over a few of our concepts, starting with the Youth Peace Gardens idea. So UnityNet Youth Peace Gardens allow community members through the UnityNet Empowerment Networks to engage in dialogue with the youth about their future well-being and how they can empower them by providing opportunities for the youth to meet their own needs and achieve their collective dreams of a better world for all, both humans and all relations included. So at UnityNet, the Youth Peace Garden spaces will have a tree of peace and reconciliation planted, as well as a peace pole erected in a conspicuous location with 5-foot traffic within or next to the garden, symbolizing the hopes and the dreams of the entire human family, standing in vigil and silent prayer for peace on earth. So the Youth Peace Gardens can also have an Indigenous unity flag flying nearby, depending on whether the community wishes to have one, or if it's even allowed by the gentleman who designed the flag. He actually doesn't allow the flag to fly in Canada, for instance. So with each Youth Peace Garden that we plant globally, we will also work on a program to help local communities establish their own local UnityNet Unity Peace Center locally. But that is a longer term project. One other thing is that the Youth Peace Gardens do not need to be food gardens, but can also be ornamental, but should reflect the local cultures. Although some people will insist on these gardens being productive and growing food, and some will insist that they should also be climate smart and regenerative and serve as the Unity Gardens as well. The only actual criteria for the Youth Peace Garden is the presence of a peace pole and the tree of peace and reconciliation, planted in ceremony with the rest of the community, as a way to bring everyone together in partnership and collaboration for the success of all people, leaving no one behind. So the campaign that we have for the planting of the Youth Peace Gardens is led by the members of the Unity Environment Network, working in partnership with the Global Partnership for Regenerative Development, where all of the UnityNet members are welcome too, with the idea being to protect the ecological integrity of lakes, rivers, and watershed biodiversity, as well as bioregional eco-integrity, using the UnityNet system of working with local Indigenous peoples and their allies to establish rings and networks of youth peace gardens around all of our sacred waters and in all of our sacred ecoregions, planted by the young people and their families in the regions that need ecological protection from the degenerative development, like urban industrial developments, mining, and other activities that can contaminate waters and damage the ecological integrity of these bioregions, and establish the local teams of pollinator and watershed ambassadors through the RDG clubs at the local schools in all these communities of the sacred watersheds and bioregions, and to demonstrate regenerative living and lifestyles that help to restore and regenerate ecosystems and watershed integrity as people live their day-to-day lives. So the overall purpose of the Watershed Peace Gardens campaign is twinning the Youth Peace Gardens, these INAB collaboratives in all our local communities across Canada, the G20, and globally, implementing the UnityNet programs for localization of the global goals, and establishing the community Unity Garden Learning Center network of practical learning spaces that utilize any and all of various types of productive open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure solutions in all the local communities of UnityNet globally. So we need to also develop partnerships as per SDG 17 and begin to collaborate with the African diaspora and Indigenous peoples in Canada, Turtle Island, and globally in order to help bring the world's attention to these solutions, the ones that we want, in the watershed peace gardens. And that is the campaign that we are going to be starting. So again, you'll find in the chat a little bit more information about the Peace Gardens Network, supporting the Indigenous Global Unity Network that we have built up, again, through the IGU Summit events that we do over the last years. So again, you'll find information about, for instance, I mentioned Indigenous Unity flag and the Peace Bowls. We also have our Watershed Peace Gardens campaign and network. We do intend to plant some peace bowls in every peace garden, if possible, as well to can, along with, I think, story pods as well in all of these gardens as we move forward. So at UnityNet, our purpose and plan is to provide local communities safe spaces in local communities around the world where regenerative solutions can also help local people to achieve these global goals, the SDGs, and can also be showcased and taught to others, where UnityNet seeks to create an abundance economy that leaves no one behind in our lifetimes, in one generation. Our purpose and plan being to help local communities create these localized partnerships in all the local communities around the world for the purpose of creating safe spaces in their own local communities everywhere on Earth, where the purpose of the story pods is to help all people to connect to each other and to connect to their watersheds and bioregions and all the relations. They begin to tell a new story of resilience and adaptation to climate change, for sovereignty, and a new type of localized economic development model. The main goal being the story pods, the practical implementation of these solutions for achieving an abundance economy that helps to bring everyone forward, and of course leaves no one behind. An abundance economy can be defined as a localized, responsible, productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that aims to bring everyone forward. So the question we've been asking ourselves has been, how do we achieve this goal and cause or force it to become our new collective reality? We help create sacred and ethical spaces for sharing and learning in all our local communities of UnityNet. So the focus of the story points, the project and development process, which we want to establish at all of the youth peace gardens, is to help advance and contribute to the co-creation of a bioregional Earth through the creative, collective, local actions that each of us can do in our local communities toward the creation of this abundance economy that brings everyone forward, where the spaces and the places can also serve as safe, sacred, ethical, social spaces for dealing with trauma and dealing with and adapting to climate change and resource scarcity. So also note that we're also rethinking the way forward with regards to the IGU Summit events, since we are now embarking on a journey to co-create the story pods that we want to place into every one of these UnityNet-like learning gardens, that will be followed by a series of what we call Circle of Tea community events or watch parties, including at the Community Unity Eco-Village Centers of Excellence and at the UnityNet Community Social Supermarkets. So again, you'll find information about some of the things that I mentioned in the presentation in the chat. So our main purpose is to create the local empowerment networks, these localized networks, according to our haptometrics partnership template, that it identifies the 8 different sectors of every local community. So the public, the government, the private, the businesses, the civil society, and NGOs, the academic and the educational institutions, the interfaith, the finance, the banks and credit unions, the orange economy, the creative sector, and the local and regional indigenous peoples. So they can all work together to empower their own local youth and FFHE, as we call them, the female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs. The INAB Collaborative means a localized interfaith non-governmental academic business and banking club, assembled as per the drawdown Markham haptometrics partnership template, which you see on the left side, the star with the heart in the center. The Global INAB Collaborative, or INAB2C, empowerment networks are created to empower the local FFHE in and for the residents of a local community, watershed, island, or bioregion. The local FFHE teams of young female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs, the local Unity Garden construction, maintenance, and operational teams will be empowered to succeed in their collaborative humanitarian social enterprise in their own local community. But we're here to help your community establish a localized partnership in your own local community that has organizations that are investment ready, where investments are made through the INAB collaboratives. No other funding gets passed through to any of the individual organizations. Everything is done and all the exchange and the investments are made through the INAB collaboratives. So again, you'll find a little bit of information about UnityNet International and where you can find us on social media, along with an example INAB collaborative. Again, you'll find on social media. So I want to talk about the RGG clubs. Our UnityNet and GP4RD members are proposing to promote the next phase of the UN global goals, which should be focused on regenerative development and would be implemented from 2030 to 2045, where all of the people of the planet would work together globally to regenerate their watersheds and regenerate Mother Earth, including environmental, ecological, biological health, and biodiversity, along with working together for the development of an abundance economy that brings everyone forward. Or as we used to emphasize every week during the IGU Summit weekly broadcasts, a responsible, localized, productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that seeks to leave no one behind, and in future, regenerative development goals, or RDGs, from 2030 to 2045. The AHIABGA UnityNet model is intended to help local communities deliver the local education and training infrastructure, the learning programs that will allow youth, families, and local communities to work together in peace, collaborate at home, in their own local watersheds, and with other local communities around the world in order to learn how to lift themselves out of poverty. We hope that all of the members of the INAB collaboratives in all local communities of UnityNet will also establish RDG clubs in all of the local schools at all levels, from kindergarten to grade schools to secondary and high schools and post-secondary institutions, our universities and colleges, as we begin to build and expand the learning partnership for global unity. So again, you'll find that information about the RDG clubs in the chat, as well as the related 4K clubs. There are a number of educational networks that we do have, including the Civic Education Network and Open Knowledge Network, Children and Youth Network, which is also on the various platforms, social media, and also as well, an intern network, since we do want to establish internship programs. So the UnityNet Learning Network helps to address the UN Sustainable Development Goals through communication and practical food system learning. In the Global Unity Network, Life Learning Gardens, the skills development programs can be delivered through there. With the development of these learning program partnerships being led by Dr. Stephanie Schuller, a PhD from the University of Toronto, the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education, where her research is focused on holistic well-being, neuroscience, and learning. where Stephanie is also a community regenerative design consultant with a background in play and is the co-founder and director of the Maui Aloha Project, a global eco-village initiative that aims to support the co-creation of sustainable and regenerative living, learning, and thriving communities. Stephanie is also a co-founder and director of UnityNet International, in addition to being the co-founder and director of the Unity Learning Network. So, of course, Stephanie had introduced herself as well earlier, but I do wish to recognize her one more time. Just putting, again, some additional information about our networks into the chat so that that information is available all on the call. Again, this document will be shared later with all of these links as well. So the Global Sister Schools program, the exchange programs, will be done between the communities that have already established their own local youth peace gardens, the story pods, and the interfaith non-governmental academic, business, and banking collaboratives, those INAB collaboratives, in their own local communities, watersheds, and bioregions. The UnityNet GP4RD, Learning Partnership for Global Unity, is an educational institution partnership ecosystem created for the purpose of facilitating learning exchanges, both in person and virtual, and helping establish local and regional global Unity 4K clubs in all these local watersheds and bioregions with the help of the local INAP collaboratives. They'll also be helping establish RDG clubs in all the local schools at all levels, from kindergarten to grade schools to secondary and high schools and post-secondary institutions, and helping establish networks of educators, investors, and other interested stakeholders who want to verify, implement, and deploy at scale any of the new models and concepts for sustainable and regenerative education, finance, governance, economic, and infrastructure solutions for achieving these global goals globally in ways that help to achieve an abundance economy that brings everyone forward. Those who show up and take their seat at the table will have that opportunity to participate in the UnityNet Global Sister Schools program and the partnership programs, provided they are eligible, by establishing and or becoming a member of the local INAP collaboratives in their own local communities, watersheds, and ecoregions. So again, you'll see a little bit of additional information being shared in the chat about the partnership ecosystem we are building across all of the countries, communities, watersheds, and ecoregions of our network of networks. So the CPP program is something I want to mention as well. It was originally created in 2019 for our original demonstration project in Prince Edward County, Ontario, where we were seeking to demonstrate building holistic regenerative climate-smart communities, where the CPP program is a community-based partnership program for the practical local drawdown solutions demonstration, integration, deployment, and promotions of and for such solutions within various communities in support of the partners of Drawdown Markham's Community Climate Action Fund. We wanted to do this virtually everywhere in Canada and eventually everywhere and anywhere around the world, where projects will be done in collaboration with the We Energize Global Cooperation Turtle Island International Civil Society Organization in support of the 5 Points Youth Foundation Goodwill Ambassador Program and Agenda for Peace, Reconciliation, and the Globalization of the Global Goals, or the SDGs. Where the pilot projects were intended to be used to develop a framework that will subsequently be able to support multiple projects, both in Canada and eventually around the world, with the aim to implement both rural and urban holistic sustainability infrastructure as appropriate, along with the related SDG education and training programs, especially for youth, educators, and decision makers of all kinds within communities everywhere in Canada and globally. We do this by coordinating commemorative tree planting ceremonies as part of the 400th and 800th anniversary Tree of Peace and Reconciliation ceremonial initiatives that have already taken place in cities around the world. Again, you can find additional information about the CTP program in the chat, as well as a very important ceremony that took place in 2020. So the Global Partnership for Regenerative Development, I've mentioned before, GP4RD, was created in order to help educate and train the next generation in these best-in-class regenerative development solutions that can be applied in all of our local communities worldwide. This is our primary network of humanitarian enterprises and INAP collaborators who are coming together as per SDG 17, Partnership with Goals, to focus on the practical implementation of these various local regenerative solutions for achieving an abundance economy that brings everyone forward. As noted already once before, an abundance economy is defined as a local partner, globalized, responsible, productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that aims to leave no one behind in all local communities worldwide, where localization is done as per the AHIABGA-UnityNet UNIT partnership ecosystem and the HMP template that I showed before, left, which can again be seen on this slide. So again, you see the Partnership for Regenerative Development and the links in the chat. As noted before, the Learning Partnership for Global Unity and Educational Institution Partnership Ecosystem. So we're supporting the concept of lifeboat labs as places for, amongst other things, showcasing the various low-energy systems that can provide life-sustaining necessities for all people in all local communities, and serving as places to experiment with new forms of human society, leaving behind war, capitalism, and much of the rest. As we say, they are places to co-create new societies during this great simplification. Community Unity Garden Learning Centers act as lifeboats of knowledge and learning. It is about preparation without dismantling current life patterns, with the Life Learning Gardens acting as stepping stones in between doing nothing and undertaking deep action. So again, you'll find the links to the learning partnership then in the chat that we have created as well with Dr. Decor. So PodNet GTA is part of the PodNet Global Cooperative Enterprise Network of regenerative housing, building, and community solutions. We are supporting the Spark for Humanity Hub network of climate-smart education and training centers in Canada. So these solutions are being delivered through the Global Unity Network and our Unity Gardens Learning, Education, and Training that uses the UnityNet AHIABGA system and methods of localization of the global goals, starting with these Sustainable Development Goals, to help build these partnerships, where the PodNet programs are delivered locally by the CSF Development Group. But as always, we are working through partnerships. So we have a number of teams in different countries affiliated with this pod group in Toronto as well. So we are assisting them in the development of their own local teams on these countries where we are affiliated with. So the Youth Peace Roots project, this is one that we're hoping to bring forward in the next couple of years, is a 3-continent project and fundraising campaign intended to showcase global cooperation. So we're working closely with Global Cooperation Day through the We Energize Global Cooperation Turtle Island International Civil Society Organization. It's an event and undertaking that will likely last several months. We will plan for it to take place from about May until October 2025 for about half a year. The actual event is called Pedal for Peace. The purpose of the Youth Peace Roots campaign is to begin to establish, in partnership with the International PodNet Network, starting here in the GTA and GTB, and create a national project across generations and cultures to co-create and install the Youth Peace Gardens and the Story Pods all across Canada with the help of the Watershed Grandmothers and in partnership with local farmers and schools and Indigenous peoples and communities across the entire country as part of a national project practical reconciliation and healing, and for transforming education in the Canadian context. We also need to prepare the next generation for climate change and local actions that can be taken by all people in all of our local communities across the country as part of the forthcoming Organic Action Plan of the Canadian organic growers, and all with those who have a passion about restoring landscapes, ecosystems, and biodiversity, and building food-secure, resilient communities through soil and ecosystem restoration, using systems that help our Canadian farmers and their own local communities become more resilient, gain additional income for the work that they do, and support being offered through the PAGI payments for global goals implementation, not by charging consumers more for their products, but rather by making organic and regenerative climate-smart food more affordable and accessible for all people in the country, including the homeless, new arrivals, immigrants and refugees, and everyone who contributes to a better society. We're also supporting the transition and actions that will allow local communities all across Canada and all around the world, in partnership with others at the grassroots level, community to community, to allow humanity to begin to adapt to the changing climate and any other types of resource scarcity, and a chance to change the paradigm of development from one that is focused on competition for access to knowledge and resources and tools, to one that is based on caring for the well-being of others, including all our relations, along with the practical understanding and application of Ubuntu, not only to leave no one behind, but to bring everyone forward. So again, you'll find in the chat a little bit additional information about the International C4 Group partnership, which was actually started before any of this work that we're doing now. So the Youth Peace Routes concept will be delivered locally, regionally, in and by people in each bioregion on the 3 continents. First, across Turtle Island, North America, starting in Canada, and maybe in the USA as much as possible, with all of our partners, both here and there, and with our local teams here in Canada, both from and with the schools and the Rotary clubs and other NGOs and service organizations, with all of the partners of our haptometrics partnership locally in all local communities. So we'll also be encouraging and assisting in the development of parallel and aligned campaigns in mostly sub-Saharan Africa or Al-Kebaban, in partnership with organizations like the Culture of Peace Foundation and Hope Nigeria, who can help to organize on that continent, and with all of our partners at UnityNet over there, and in Eurasia, starting in South Asia, in partnership with the AHIABGA and UnityNet partners in South Central Asia, in India, in Pakistan, and Nepal, and Bangladesh, and even in Bhutan, with whomever can help to bring to the table the partners who can help make it happen. Hopefully also with the schools on all 3 continents. So again, you'll find a link to Global Cooperation Day and their Global Cooperation for the Island in the chat. So once we establish the Youth Peace Routes made up of the local Youth Peace Gardens, we will encourage tourists from all around the world to visit all 3 continents and experience all of their splendor and glory, and to partake the wonders of the Turtle Island, Asian, and African nature and cultures, including dance and music and textiles, clothing, dress, costume, and of course food, and to experience everything that is good about these continents, the Americas, Asia, and Africa, and all of their residents, the humans and nature, and all of our relations, as we journey in time toward 2030, where each of our local communities on all of the continents start to come together in partnership in order to achieve the global goals, which right now, of course, is the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, but where we want to move forward one watershed, one community, and one meal at a time. We'll find again the links to the various networks, such as the Ecocultural Projects Network Group and our Global Sister Schools program, which was the first concept we came up with with our partners in Africa, in particular, with South Africa as well. So the purpose of the Pedal for Peace promotional exercise is to engage with local communities across all of the continents in an exercise of global cooperation for peace and for regenerative development in order to establish the youth peace gardens and the other regenerative climate smart infrastructure, including the story bonds, along with the INAP collaboratives and the cooperative humanitarian enterprise teams, the FFHE, where the youth peace gardens serve as the sacred sites and get mapped to the sacred site and watershed map, which will also be visible and available and show the youth peace gardens and youth peace routes across all of these continents, which can also follow the waterways in each of the watersheds, such as in South Asia. We will mobilize local teams on all of the continents, starting with North America, Africa, and Asia in 2025, to ride cross-country on e-bikes, most likely, and engage with communities locally everywhere, especially with those who are the most marginalized, including refugees and indigenous communities across all of these continents, and assist local community members and partners to establish the youth peace gardens, along with the story bonds and the INAP collaboratives, in order to help raise awareness to the various issues of refugees and indigenous peoples and people in slums, and begin to raise regenerative finance, known as REFI, and to establish the learning infrastructure, both the hands-on and virtual, that will empower the local FFHEs to succeed in their local humanitarian enterprises, wherever they are. All will be done in support of the UnityNet Net Zero Tourism Initiative, which you can find, again, the links in the chat. I'd like to give an example of possible youth peace route, something that could be made practical, something that crosses our human-imposed borders, the lines in the sand that the water and the other living things don't recognize and never will. If you look at a map of South Asia, for instance, the city of Hisar, Haryana, India, about 160 kilometers northwest of New Delhi, the water that falls on that city as rain eventually makes its way to Shakur Lake on the border with Pakistan via the Chardoro stream and related canals, which flow mostly on the Pakistan side of the border. So if we were to create a youth peace route by following the flow of that water, we need to plant most of the youth peace gardens on what is now known politically as Pakistan. So as we undertake our campaign to establish the youth peace routes in Canada, to plant the trees of peace and reconciliation, and establish the youth peace gardens and story pods right here in Canada through our Pedal for Peace campaign, some other teams in places like India, Pakistan, and Nepal, and Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka, and Bhutan, as well as any other teams in sub-Saharan Africa, across those 19 countries, from Kintakunda, the Gambia, all the way to Embu, Kenya, could be doing the same in their own countries by following the rivers, learning about their watersheds, and interacting with all of the people there, and learning about all of the indigenous peoples and cultures, and all of the food they eat, and all of the natural features and wildlife that make these places so unique and interesting. So they can also connect to the land and connect to the people, and know that others are basically the same as them, and have the same basic human needs and desires and yearnings. But they will also know that there are no others who are watching them and following their journeys. People from all around the world on every continent who are sharing in their experiences, the experience of the people, the landscapes, the wildlife, the food, the laughter, and even the tears. And they will also know that by taking part in these journeys across the watersheds and bioregions of their own countries and bioregions, and by planting the youth peace gardens all along these routes, the watersheds, with so many people in all these local communities, that they are helping to change the way education is delivered. And through their acts, they will be connecting people to nature, across generations, with young people connecting to their elders, and the wise watershed grandmothers and grandfathers equally. And they will know that by taking their journey this year and next year, and perhaps every year until their children do it with them and take over, that millions or even billions of others will also be learning about their own culture and celebrating their cultures of others with people whom they may not have known otherwise, but who are in their community, their watershed, their bioregion, and who are all learning to connect to their own watersheds equally, so that we all understand that we are all stewards of nature and culture and protectors of the watershed integrity, and that we are all of us pollinator ambassadors and stewards of Mother Earth, wherever we are in the world. So again, you'll find links to our pollinator ambassador network in the chat, along with some of the information about what you're seeing on the screen in terms of this simple example of a peace fruit root to like all of them as we move forward into years. This might just take a couple of seconds to paste this information into the chat. Next screen. We are almost done. We're approaching the end of this presentation. So there are a few more things I wanted to also mention. One of these is the Rotary Dare to Be Great e-Club's proposal to create an International Year of Literacy in 2025. So this has been an inspirational campaign being led by the Commons Cluster member, Bill Graham, the president of the Rotary Global Club of Crazy People, as he calls it. People who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world, the whole world, and daring enough to try, i.e. the Rotary Dare to Be Great Club. I'm not going to go into details about the Rotary Dare to Be Great IYL 2025 campaign. However, just know that we here in UnityNet International are supportive of what Bill and the team at the Dare to Be Great Rotary Club are trying to do. And our Youth Peace Roots Pedal for Peace campaign that we're planning for next year will also be done in support of the International Year of Literacy 2025 and the Rotary Club initiative to raise funding for solutions to literacy and more. It is an extremely important undertaking, very ambitious, but also doable. Thus, I would like to recommend that anyone who may be interested to learn more about the Rotary IYL 2025 campaign can contact me directly, and I can introduce you to Bill or one of his colleagues at the Dare to Be Great Rotary Club, like Patrick or Gail or Jerica. So again, I will put in some additional information about the Rotary Club in the chat for those who wish to learn more. So I also wanted to mention our humanitarian enterprise teams, started in the previous slide, a reference to the FFHE, our female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs. What is an FFHE? Well, a female person is quite well known to us. That probably doesn't require an explanation. But when I use the word feminist, what I really mean are the men in our network who are supporting and empowering the female humanitarian entrepreneurs. And what exactly is a humanitarian entrepreneur? They're just social entrepreneurs, but which have been quite well defined. Many places, many people, but where their enterprise, their business, is also focused on implementing the various local solutions for achieving the global goals, those 17 sustainable goals, and of course in future, the post-2030 goals, whatever they might be. Nobody knows yet, because they haven't been defined yet. But here at UnityNet, we've been predicting that the next set of goals for the next 15 years after the year 2030, up until 2045, will probably have a lot to do with regenerating our Earth systems, the physical environments all around us, the sustained life, without which we simply cannot survive, along with regenerating our economy, such as it is. There will need to be a serious rethinking about what's important, and regenerating the individual and collective mental, physical, emotional, cultural, intellectual, occupational, and spiritual health of every person who is alive. It is a huge undertaking, of course, but we believe that the next set of goals might possibly be called the Regenerative Development Goals, or RDGs. And thus, we have created a structure that will allow people to begin talking about these things years ahead of the actual transition from the SDGs to the RDGs. And will also allow more people to actually give their input about what these goals should be and why. So please feel free to visit and join one of the RDG Club social media discussion groups. You can find us on WhatsApp and Facebook and LinkedIn for those professionals among us so far. We don't really have the bandwidth or capability to be using all of the social media sites like TikTok and Instagram, Twitter, X, just yet. But somebody, I'm sure, that will be able to assemble a great media team who can get us to these, using these other social media platforms beyond just the Zoom call. So again, you'll find information about the UnityNet RDG Club in the chat. I also wanted to mention the UnityNet Net Zero Tourism Initiative as well. I did allude to it in a couple of times earlier, once in the opening and again when I described the Paddle for Peace campaign. The Net Zero Tourism Initiative is important because we want to leverage ecotourism as a tool for helping to fulfill the need for the implementation of the various solutions for achieving the global goals everywhere around the world locally by leveraging the tourism for SDG framework, but saying to people, or rather asking them, an important question: how can we create a net zero holiday, or perhaps even a net negative carbon CO2 experience in their own neighborhood, watershed, or bioregion? What would that look like? What would we actually need to do that everyone on the planet could also be given an opportunity to experience a memorable, fascinating, exhilarating, or perhaps relaxing net zero travel experience? We here at UnityNet would like to lead the way by not only asking these kinds of questions, but also starting to actually demonstrate the various kinds of solutions that will be needed to be implemented in the very near future that will allow us to have a net zero vacation travel experience. And we plan on starting to demonstrate some of these localized solutions right here in our UnityNet Unity eco-villages, starting with a network of eco-village centers of excellence. So again, you'll find in the chat the links to these related networks. So we also believe that each eco-village should start with a community unity hub, with a CSAF center, and at least a community unity forest, established in the context of a UnityNet Unity eco-village and its related center of excellence. And in the ideal case, these should be established in each local bioregion on Earth, on all of the continents, which should have at least one community unity hub that is co-located with a UnityNet Unity Peace Center that should also be established in the context of a productive UnityNet Unity eco-village, and as noted, its related center of excellence. Of course, we might still be years away from that dream, but we want to work toward it, and we're willing to partner with whomever shares this dream with us, and would like to see it become a reality. In the meantime, we're going to start to promote, to actually start establishing a global network of youth peace gardens and youth peace routes as well, starting right here in Canada, right where we are, but where we do hope to work in partnership with our humanitarian entrepreneurs everywhere and anywhere in the world, with anyone who also wishes to begin establishing some youth peace gardens and youth peace routes, and the empowerment teams of INAP collaboratives, and to begin engaging young people and older folks across generations to begin dreaming and thinking like a lifelong learner and humanitarian entrepreneur who can actually change the world for the better by uplifting and empowering all people everywhere to succeed, so we can actually achieve our dream of living in an abundance economy that helps to bring everyone forward and doesn't leave anyone behind. So before we close out this presentation today, I do want to mention a few other things. At some point, we do plan to restart some kind of weekly or bi-weekly discussions again, somewhat like the Indigenous Global Unity Summit events that we did for the past few years. But ideally, we would like to do them from the youth peace gardens in our own local communities here in Canada. We also want them to be done using the story pods that we imagine establishing in every youth peace garden as well. But we are not there yet. For now, we will continue to hold our pandemic preparedness prevention proof of concept discussions every week. We'll be having private discussions about this among a limited number of members of UnityNet, and we'll continue to host these cross-disciplinary dialogues about potential projects. Specifically, we've been talking about undertaking some proof of concept projects in a few key countries for the establishment of a network of collaborative health delivery systems. Not quite the community unity hubs or peace centers just yet, but serving as stepping stones to get us there collaboratively. So the weekly meetings will continue to take place after this event today, every Wednesday, most likely. During the weekly events, we'll continue to discuss the various integrated solutions in health and environmental stewardship for achieving positive bioregional watershed and community-centric health outcomes globally, i.e. locally in every community, globally for all communities, watersheds, and bioregions. The PPP discussions about projects will go beyond just the veterinary and human health professionals, where we would underscore the interconnectedness between human, animal, and environmental health and our essential human role and responsibility in ensuring healthy and meaningful outcomes at least cost. We call this upstream thinking. We have therefore created a One Health network within UnityNet, where we can have conversations that are critical for not only conceptualizing, but also implementing integrated solutions that serve our communities on both local and global scales. So please feel free to join this network. We already have more than a dozen members, including doctors and veterinary officers and poverty alleviation experts of all kinds, leaders in health, agriculture, and monitoring and evaluation of initiatives for uplifting people in both rural communities and urban settings, including slums. Through this network, we'll be promoting holistic health solutions that can help to make meaningful impact on people by leveraging our existing infrastructure and community relationships to roll out projects that address a wide range of thematic areas, including access to quality education, access to quality healthcare, food security, agriculture, and closed-loop zero-emission production systems in and around cities or on islands, water and sanitation solutions, systems that can help to improve the welfare of people in both rural communities and urban areas, including in the various global slums, as well as climate adaptation and mitigation solutions that can help to improve the health and well-being of the various communities we serve and also contribute to sustainable development and resilience building. Again, you'll find the link to the One Health network in our chat. So we are starting our next phase of project discussions as a cross-disciplinary conversation with health and medical experts and farmers, grassroots communities about the various integrated approach solutions for achieving better health outcomes for and in local communities globally. We have a goal of creating a global network of Unity Peace Centers by working closely with organizations like UNDP and with the partners at Energen Institute and with historically Black universities and colleges in the US to help deliver education curriculum based on the outcomes that are achieved at the Eco-Village Centers of Excellence. As I noted, we believe that each local bioregion should have at least one community unity hub co-located with a UnityNet Youth Peace Center that would be established in the context of the UnityNet Youth Eco-Village and its related Center of Excellence. Part of our 2024-25 and ongoing campaigns will be focused on diet and health paradigm, which is all about lifestyles, providing options and tools that can help to make life more active, and helping us to get off our screens, which is also part of it. And this is also why we will continue to focus on plant-based diets, fruits and nuts, and forest and tree-based foods, all included. And of course, not on heavily processed stuff. We collectively, all of humanity, need to grow a lot more fresh green veggies and eat things like tubers and all manner of fresh things that are grown right in our own local communities, cities, towns, villages, and right in or at our own homes. We need to be eating things as fresh as possible with minimal transportation and with minimal storage where possible. Although people do also need to have skills around preservation and preparation of these fresh things, and not just cold storage and microwave ovens, but also skills like pickling, dehydrating, pressure canning, and fermentation at home, including wine making, mead, in the local community climate smart kitchens, in or near the food gardens and food forests and farms. Food is also culture, and thus deserves its own place in education and preservation initiatives, and is best done and in and with the community, especially with the elders and families, celebrating together as they do their learning, with music and dance and sport and fun. And as my colleague Mike Nickerson likes to say, the future well-being of humanity should be achieved by having more fun and less stuff. So again, find in the chat a little bit about these other networks that I have been referring to, as you see on the screen, including a link to Sustainable Wellbeing website, Mike Nickerson, that I mentioned. So in closing, I just want to say this. Within UnityNet, we are seeking ways to help bring everyone forward. Of course, it's easier said than done, but that's why the word Ubuntu is in our mind. We have a clear focus on empowering members through knowledge, organization, and the development of local partnerships. This approach aligns with the spirit of Goal 17 of the Sustainable Development Goals, which aims to revitalize global partnerships for sustainable development. Our emphasis is on collective action and community building before accessing funding and finance. It's a strategy that ensures efforts are sustainable and grounded in local needs and capabilities. So our next phase campaign projects will be for establishing the youth peace routes of the youth peace gardens and story ponds through the Pedal for Peace campaign on the 3 continents to start with. We'll be promoting our local humanitarian enterprise teams on all continents through the local INAB collaborative partnerships, and we'll be helping them to establish the various productive, open source, regenerative, climate smart enterprises that are part of the Global Partnership for Regenerative Development and the Learning Partnership for Global Unity in each of the local communities of UnityNet Canada and Turtle Island, and of course, in every other community that is partnered with them globally through the CTP program. We'll have a strong emphasis on the community-based kitchen learning centers, along with the gardens and forests and pod buildings. Our Canadian teams will start coming together to organize the UnityNet Pedal for Peace campaign for Canada, crossing from Bonavista, Newfoundland to Vancouver, BC, and all provinces in between, where lots and lots of watersheds will be crossed. It baffles my mind to think how many there are, possibly hundreds or even thousands. And we are hoping, we're planning that each one of these watersheds will eventually have at least one YPG, the Youth Peace Garden, and a story pond and Unity Garden in each one of them, especially as our population gets closer and closer to 100 million, which is the goal that many economists and many of our leaders would like to see happen. And where each of these youth peace gardens and the INAB collaboratives, including the FFHE teams, will be designing, building, managing, operating, and maintaining the various types of productive, regenerative, climate-smart community infrastructure, will also be twinned with at least one other youth peace garden in places like Africa and Asia, where our goal is to have one youth peace garden per 1,000 residents of Canada by 2030, noting that Canada's population The real-time model says that we have already surpassed 41 million people. That equates to 41,000 youth peace gardens being established across the country by people in all of the local communities themselves. We just need 1% of those 1,000 residents, about 10 people, to come together in each local community through our partnerships with the service organizations like Rotary, the YMCA, the Lions Clubs, and others, and say, yes, we want to establish a youth peace garden in our community too. And then we can work with the young people and elders in those local communities to design and install a story pond and begin to teach our young people how to become humanitarian entrepreneurs and begin empowering them through the INAB collaborative community-based partnerships, while also teaching them how to design, build, manage, repair, and maintain the productive open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure through the local RDG clubs and the 4K clubs in schools and in their own local neighborhoods. And of course, we want to do it again and again and again in every local community across Canada and also across Turtle Island, once again partnered with communities on all the other continents as a way for us to change the world. So if you can see it, enjoy the eclipse, everyone. Remember also that you can save the chat by pressing the 3 little dots at the bottom of the screen and press Save Chat before we exit. So this now concludes the introductory presentation for the IGF Summit. We can now, if we wish, wrap the conversation once more. I see that it is 1 o'clock. This is actually our official ending time, so it worked out just about perfectly.
Perfect. Well, thank you thank you so very much. And again, I'm learning, so bear with me. But it is important for us to take a station break. After the station break, those guests here that would like to introduce themselves can do so. But I would ask that you follow Lloyd's instruction to make sure that your email address is in the chat. I will download the chat and I will send it out to those of you whose email address I have. Many of you are using mobile phones, so you will not be able to save it. But again, this is a station break. So this is being brought to you by the Andrew Networks and AHIABGA-TV. What we're asking everyone to do is actually join us in making sure that we're able to reach a wider audience. Just to give you a reminder, AHIABGA is an acronym for the Ad Hoc International Board of Goodwill Ambassadors, but it's also being brought to you by andrewnetworks.com. And that's where you can find information about what we're doing here. But what we've done is we've made a commitment to move beyond the Sustainable Development Goals, regardless of what the new name is. The truth of the matter is that there is already an ongoing effort on the part of UN Habitat, a 20-year effort that began in 2016 that's going to last through 2036. As one of the tools that I urge to be considered for 2025 and the year of literacy is for all of us to become more literate about what it takes to actually make our communities work. I'm so glad that Lloyd had an opportunity to share with us, actually it was Lisa Anise, many of the innovative solutions that we're coming up with are already in practice in refugee camps, of all places, in places around the world where people don't have anything but themselves and their own innovation to adapt the world that they're living in. I bring up to you the United Nations Habitat, UN Habitat, because it is, of course, based in Nairobi, Kenya. And it is, in fact, the headquarters, Nairobi, is the headquarters for all of United Nations activities throughout the continent of Africa. But what I do want to make available to you is this new Urban Agenda Illustrated Handbook. I'm urging every one of you to simply go online and take the 2-part course that walks you through the basic elements of the new urban agenda. For those of you who cannot read this, I'll read it aloud. This will only take about 5 minutes, so thank you for your time. The new urban agenda adopted at Habitat 3 in Quito, Ecuador on 20 October 2016 presents a paradigm shift based on the science of cities and lays out standards and principles for the planning, construction, development, management, and improvement of urban areas. The new urban agenda is intended as a resource for different actors in multiple levels of government and for civil society organizations, the private sector, and all who reside in urban spaces of the world. The new urban agenda highlights linkages between sustainable urbanization and job creation, livelihood opportunities, and improved quality of life. And it insists on incorporation of all these sectors in every urban development or renewal policy and strategy. The new urban agenda illustrated handbook serves as a base for the new urban agenda online crash course. The self-paced course in 2 parts is available for free and accessible at any time. And I'll put into the chat the link where you can access it, but you can always Google it, UN Habitat New Urban Agenda Illustrated, and you'll be brought to this page. The new urban agenda acts as an accelerator of the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly SDG 11, making cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Again, not just cities, but human settlements, wherever they are, to provide a comprehensive framework to guide and track urbanization around the globe. Cognizant of the fact that 95% of the urban growth will be in the developing world, Sustainable Development Goal 11 sets targets and defines indicators to measure progress and growth. Excuse me. The new Urban Agenda Illustrated Handbook, prepared for all urban stakeholders globally, supports a stronger understanding of implementation of the propositions contained in the new urban agenda. It subdivides and maps the new urban agenda into 3 chapters. 1, core dimensions, 2, means of implementation, and 3, governance, follow-up, and review. The handbook analyzes the contents and propositions of the new urban agenda and their synergies with the Sustainable Development Goals and targets, and enriches them with visual illustrations, examples from all over the world, and practical propositions to action. Excuse me. Throughout its different sections, it provides a snapshot of issues and challenges in the urban development sphere as they are laid out in the new urban agenda. It aims to address higher level policy decisions for the growth and development of cities around the world. Key topics related to sustainable urban development are explained in summary, and each can be further investigated and explored. In the bibliography section, a complete list of references is provided for the reader to further research and study. As I said, I will be putting a link to this in the chat, but it is very easily Googleable. But on a personal note, the AHIABGA-TV and Andrew Networks, we are an expansion of the work that began with the 5 Points Youth Foundation. I'm the chairperson of the 5 Points Youth Foundation's Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors and CEO of Andrew Networks. My Legal Shield Associates is sponsoring this event and collaboration in support of tourism for SDGs.org. We're asking you to support our efforts to promote videos showcasing local activities and events that keep our communities safe and sustainable. We're asking you to donate to the 5 Points Youth Foundation. But AHIABGA-TV invites Goodwill ambassadors, citizen journalists, and you to then share local stories worldwide and subscribe to our channel. That's youtube.com/@AHIABGA-TV/videos in support of SDG 1716 to enhance the global partnership for sustainable development, complemented by multi-stakeholder partnerships that mobilize and share knowledge, expertise, technologies, and financial resources to support the achievement of sustainable development goals in all countries particularly developing countries, and in all underserved communities, emphasis added. You can also get your Sustainable Tourism course certification free online. There's a 15-minute tourism course you can take free online. And you can also earn 1 World Civility Point, which you can find out more about through Patrick Chun or through IITTI.org. So this message is brought to you by Andrew Networks Legal Shield Associates. And Lloyd, you're in Canada, so we're able to also provide that service in the United States and Canada to provide opportunities for all people to be able to get the legal representation they need on a real-time basis. So I'll turn it back over to you, Lloyd. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And we will be following this up with a discussion actually later tonight about moving forward with a potential business program that we want to put in place that will then allow us to gain some of the funding that will allow the team to really expand and move this into the next phase and next gear. We had previously talked about possibly incorporating under Andrew Networks. You said you had a dummy corporation. That may be a conversation we should have as well. We were talking with Lisa Anise about potentially doing it in California. UnityNet International as a development corporation, and as well an affiliate here with most of the back office services, I think, in Canada. So that may be a way to work out, and then you can work with various agencies.
Well, the great news for both Lloyd, you, and Lisa Anise is that actually my corporation, PARXTC, Export Trading Company, actually captured the UnityNet International as a fictitious business name. So it's there available to us to use. But of course, we have to put the paperwork in place so that we're able to track all our activities. But we're waiting for you.
Yep, no, absolutely. Let's have that follow-up conversation, Andrew, with the rest of our team, because I think it's time we've got to move this forward. And we have a little bit more than a year to try to get all of these organizations, all of the programs for as I had noted in the presentation, the Youth Peace Routes, the Pedal for Peace campaigns on the 3 continents. If we can work with our colleagues in Africa, as well as our colleagues in South Asia specifically as well. We had Renuka, and I believe she has mentioned as well her first program was in Pakistan, so she's got a very extensive network there. This conversation first happened just a couple weeks ago with Adam Greenwell, who is, of course, in India. And so he will be very supportive of this and this whole program for promoting and showcasing global cooperation, which is making this full circle back to the original intent of our Tree of Peace and Reconciliation tree planting events in Bermuda,
well,
Toronto.
For those of you who are able to access the file, I did put into the chat the Illustrated New Urban Agenda. It's downloadable, but I also put the links. So if you choose to, you can take the free online course. They do issue a certificate. So Lloyd, what I'm going to be suggesting is that all of us in our networks become familiar enough with these courses so that we can begin perhaps earning, if not money, then at least audiences by becoming subject matter experts in this area. That way, those tourists, because again, keep in mind, the top 1% of the world's, the people who have the top 1% of income around the world are the ones doing the majority of the travel around the world. They need to know that when they come into a community, how they can have a positive impact. And they'll be looking for people like us who can let them know how they can go back to where they're coming from and have a positive impact on their world as well. So that's the exchange I'm looking at, to connect together the top 1% with about a 99.1% to have a 100% commitment to our future.
Thank you, Andrew. Yes, absolutely. So I'd like to just, before we wind up, ask if there's anybody else that would like to say a few words before we close this session today. As noted, this is the beginning or a new beginning for us as we're entering the next phase of our campaigns and activities within UnityNet and in partnership with all of these great people around the world that we are hoping that we'll be able to work with to ensure a sustainable and regenerative future for all people across the 100% of the world. So I'm looking at everybody's picture on the screen. I don't see any hands up or people unmuting, so I guess we can probably close up our day today. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone for joining, and we'll tune in next time. Have a wonderful day.
Just let me save the chat one more time.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Well,
Cheers.
we can also do a group photo while we're waiting to save the chat if you choose. Now would be that time.
Okay, that would be good if we can all turn on our camera. And actually look at the screen. Oh, I'm seeing Pamela just turned her camera on. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to capture a couple. Screenshot there. But of course, this is all being live streamed and recorded on Facebook. And again, as I said, it's going to be also put out there as a document.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lloyd. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, everybody. Oh, you're on mute.
I'm sorry, I was asking Joyce if we could get her because she's turned sideways, but we can't see her. There you go. Okay, y'all, we're going to wrap it up for today. Love you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Be well, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.